All right. So tonight is nighttime. Well, no, that's today. It's 2:10 a.m. in the morning. And I'm still up working. So I did get it right. It is today. So it says Diddy freak-offs is worse than we thought. Than we thought. Did I say thought? Worse than we thought. All right. So we got Melanie Kane. She's going to go through who the Punisher is, she's going to talk about Cassie's behavior, the book, the cross-examine, the Star Island raid, and closing notes. That's how she got it lined up. So shout out to Melanie Kane.
So earlier in the day, Cassie's mother gave direct testimony for the prosecution, but the defense, they did not cross her. Now, the next person that they called was Cherie Hayes. He took the stand, and he is one of the people, or one of the guys, who is actually an escort, who has been dubbed by the name the Punisher. Yes, so he's one of the freak-off guys. Now, he
Oh, he's one of the
clarified
freak-off
that he was a
guys.
professional exotic dancer affiliated with Hunkomania, a male stripper service. He also operated a personal website, thepunisher.com, which advertised his private entertainment services for events like, the normal stuff, bachelorette parties, different, I don't know, birthdays, whatever he's doing. But he emphasized that he did not do sex work. He explained that the name The Punisher came from his style of aggressive basketball in his youth, not anything tied
Wow.
to something sexual or around the freak offs or being an escort. Now, he also testified that Cassie contacted him
I
to
don't believe
perform
that.
a birthday bachelorette party.
Bro, how your name gonna be the Punisher on a website called Hunkomania? And you said you got that name from basketball from back in the days? All right, if you say so.
At the
If
Trump
you say
Hotel in
so.
New York. She appeared in a robe and paid him $800 in cash to set, I guess, the mood and to make the room sexy. During the session, Hayes said Cassie rubbed baby oil all on him, and he noted that the room had bowls of water mixed with baby oil. What I'm thinking is that the baby oil is not mixed with water, but the bowls maybe are like hot water to make it, and they put the baby oil in it, kind of like a baby bottle, in order to make it warmed up because they're using this during the freak off. And he said that one of the things that Cassie testified to was that she would get that they
Now I will say this. Whenever I feel like taking a bath, I'm a shower guy, bro. But every now and then I want to soak every now and then. I run my bath water and I will put baby oil in it. If I have baby oil, I'm gonna put some baby oil in the water, bro. Your skin be so soft. I promise you. Try it. If you haven't ever tried, try it.
they would get more baby oil every 5 minutes throughout a freak off. And remember,
Now, I ain't use
these
that damn
things
much.
last multiple hours, but usually multiple days, where they're being squirted down with this warm baby oil. It's so bizarre. I have questions like, who kept the bowls warm full of water? Were these like crock pots? Were these other, I don't know. Like, my
Crock
mind goes
pots.
into that. Like, don't yours, because if these are lasting days, who is replenishing all of that? Does Cassie stop? I know Diddy wouldn't do it himself.
Ah,
So
that's a great answer. So others had to be there assisting them. They too busy freaking off. They ain't got time to go get no more warm water. You know? That's crazy. That's a good question.
is it her? Is there an assistant? Because we have heard about an assistant being there when Diddy had to step away, go into another room, or he just left the freak off totally to go do business or whatever else he was going to do. Cassie would still be left there to have to do the freak off via FaceTime. And Diddy would have an assistant that was there to make sure she was still doing it, have the FaceTime on the whole time. And whenever he was out, another assistant or someone, or maybe on his own phone, would show him what's going on after freak off so he can ensure that she's still doing it. Like, this is diabolical on
It's
a
crazy.
whole different level. At some point, a masked man, and let me be clear, this was not a mask. He described it as something that a Muslim woman would wear to cover her head, and you would just see the eyes. Earlier in a report I did, I called it a hijab, but I think the technical term would be a niqab, because the niqab covers like the bottom part of the face, the hijab just covers the hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Diddy, a masked man, what we call him masked. We now know it's Diddy. He later was identified as Diddy. Comes in fully naked with a niqab on, a Muslim woman's garb, just covering the top half. So I guess he just had the head part, not the full body drapery. It's wild. Haram. Okay. This whole thing is haram. Okay. Like, brother, ooh, brother, ooh. So imagine Diddy coming in there with this thing on. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't get in the mix of what they're doing. He sits down and starts pleasuring himself while they're doing the free golf. Now, we've also heard from Cassie. What does Diddy do? Once the man finishes on her, they either directly go and pee in her mouth, where he would have the man pee in her mouth, or Diddy would pee in her mouth, or both men would pee in her mouth, and then also her body. But if the man finishes, because they don't always finish, this was clarified. If they finish on Cassie, Diddy would then go to another room when he was done, have Cassie go in there, scoop up the finishing material. We'll call it that for YouTube. The finishing material, and rub it on his body. Now, his favorite part to have it rubbed on
What's his
was his
nipples?
tatas and his nipples.
This is the thing, bro. Can you imagine, bro? All this is being said in the courtroom while his daughter's in there, his family members, his sons. He got to be embarrassed, bro. Have to be like, this is the worst embarrassment I ever have heard in my life. That is you want Cassie to rub a man's finishing liquids on your nipples, did he?
Nipples, guys, like this is crazy work. Like, imagine this entire scene. It sounds like something from a horror movie, like straight up. Oh, and I'm sorry, I want to clarify as well. He would eat when he came in, he would sometimes then start to pleasure himself, but another time he would walk in and would already be pleasuring himself as he enters the freak off room. So he comes from a bathroom or a suite. I don't know how big these rooms are. They may be different bedrooms. He would come out already with his niqab on, beaten off. Like, this is so disgusting.
Melanie, it's about beating off, choking the chicken, spanking the monkey, Melanie. All right, so listen, bro, this nigga walking in the room, spanking the monkey, walking and spanking it. Then did a bad boy if he could walk and spank it. That nigga bro, that'd be hard to do. How you gonna walk it and spank it at the same time?
I'm traumatized.
I don't know, bro.
The visual is traumatizing me. Let's keep it going. So at this freak off, Cassie asked the guy, "Do you want to finish?" Like we talked about the finishing, but he declined. Okay, instead they just gave him additional money and he just left. This is the second male escort who has testified to experiencing erectile dysfunction during these encounters arranged by Diddy and Cassie. Now, Hayes later clarified his ED was a pre-existing issue and not caused by the encounter itself. But I'm trying to figure out, how is it erectile dysfunction if he's actually able to perform at the freak off? Is not finishing part of erectile dysfunction? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe he had he had Viagra or some other pill. Maybe he had taken some substances that would prevent him to be able to finish. But again, guys, think about this. This goes on and on and on. I think the first encounters they do with a new person maybe just lasts a few hours. And by hours, I'm talking about like 8 hours at a time. So it's just kind of crazy. But another guy said at the same time, he could not finish. Now, one of the reasons the other guy couldn't finish is because Diddy started beating Cassie in another room, and he just could not do anything at that point. So I don't think it's fair to say these guys had that. I think it's a little salacious to make it seem like they were suffering from erectile dysfunction when they are probably just so desensitized and numb, and it's such a strange encounter that none of them were expecting.
Yes.
Most of these male escorts were brought in under the pretense of a private party, that they were going to dance. The first guy was expecting to dance. This guy was expecting to dance.
So Diddy bamboozled them. That's what he did. You know, they are entertainers. They was coming to entertain, not freak off, bro. That's what it is. Diddy bamboozled them.
So most of these guys are strippers. They're not thinking that this is going to be a couple that they're supposed to engage with. Now, we have not heard about any of these escorts actually engaging with Diddy, but quite frankly, I think they could bring it up later on. But again, I keep saying the prosecution is building this brick by brick, and they don't want to bring out everything that will destroy Diddy all at once, because we have 2 months to go. And if it just wrapped up now, or if they just presented everything immediately, like, what would be the point? Hayes went on to describe Cassie as very compliant, often sighing in response to Diddy's instructions. He suggested that the sex acts felt very transactional, that Cassie was just doing a job. We know she said that she was just a sex worker at that point. That was her entire job, because he had stalled her career. She had the 10 album deal, which is unheard of. It is so unethical, so predatory, that alone she should sue
10
him over.
albums,
She
bro.
possibly could come back and sue him over that, because I don't think that was part of her initial any of her initial claims when she sued him, and then they settled the next day. Because if people
Now, mind you, now Cassie had got the 30 million from Diddy, and then she turned around and sued that hotel that she got, that Diddy had beat her up in, the something Continental hotel, and she got 10 more million from them. I don't know how she sued them, you know, but she got 10 more million for them.
I've heard about in the music industry, when they heard that number 10 albums, and then she recorded hundreds of songs that he never released, well, that definitely is somebody that you are expecting to be like a slave, an indentured servant. It is just not something you see in any kind of music deal, even in some of the other predatory ones that have been revealed over the years. On one visit, Hayes recalled Diddy throwing condoms onto a couch and instructing him to get at her. Like, literally, those are the words. In another instance, he said Cassie canceled their session, but still handed him $500 just for showing up. Now, the defense is saying this reinforces their point that he was paid for his time and not sex. They're trying to really get away from this prostitution charge. But Hayes then said Cassie never seemed to be on drugs, although under cross examination, he admitted he had no frame of reference to evaluate that, since he didn't really see her outside of these freak off encounters. But we know Cassie says every time she did a freak off, she would be pumped full of drugs. At first, it kind of trickled in, and it became to a point, it was an addiction. She needed it to self-medicate, not only mentally to take herself
She
away,
wanted to be numb.
disassociate from what was happening,
Yeah.
this act of trauma, but also because it was painful. It was painful it was painful vaginally, because she was having constant infections, constant UTIs. It would be burning. It would probably be itching. I mean, I just can't imagine as a woman.
Dang.
But then also because she had been doing so much oral during these freak offs. And remember, she was doing a freak off every week for days at a time. And the other days of the week was just to recover. But there's really no recovery from something like that. So she, from doing so much oral, she would have mouth sores. And to the point where the mouth sores from the oral, but then also them peeing in her mouth, that her throat was so bad she could not even swallow. Like, not the oral, but swallow in general. Like, she would have a constant thing where her throat was hurting all the time. I can't. And remember,
that's crazy. That is crazy.
None of the antibiotics would work on her anymore. Over time, her body became resistant to any type of medication that will help her with these infections. So it just got to the point where she had to live with it. Hayes then admitted to writing a self-help book in 2022 about overcoming erectile dysfunction. This is the title, guys. In Search of Freezer Meat. You know, the courtroom erupted in laughter. Like, even
bro, in search of freezer meat, bro. Dang.
Diddy's defense lawyer, Xavier Donaldson, asked him to explain the meaning of this title because this is wild. The title was a reference to hard meat as an erection. Hayes said the book contains only 6 pages, referring to Diddy and Cassie anonymously as a wealthy married couple. He, like, guys, we got to get this book
Six
fast just because I want to read
pages.
that. He also confessed that some details in the book were exaggerated for dramatic effect. So even though you can read it, because maybe there's more details in it, but
In
again, we're not
search
going
of
to know
freezer
what is
meat.
truth or whether he's
Dang.
making things up. But I still don't get the erectile
That's
dysfunction. Maybe
crazy.
he actually does have it, but I thought you could not have freezer meat, I guess stiff meat, if you have that. I could be wrong, guys. Maybe clarify in the
I don't know,
comments
bro.
if you know better than that. But if he's writing a
Bro,
whole book
in
about it,
search of
I
freezer
guess
meat,
maybe
though.
that's what
That's
he
crazy.
has. But he sure was able to perform, and he performed with them several times, which is bizarre. Under cross, Diddy's defense lawyer, Donaldson, aimed to establish that Hayes was not a sex worker, but instead he emphasized that neither of his websites offered sexual service. Like, which one does? Like, are they acting like we don't know how this works? Anyway, Hayes described his performance as a professional dry humps and said he never initiated those acts unless the recipient seemed to be enjoying it. Now, Donaldson also
Dry
used this
humps.
to elicit key defense points. Cassie appeared to enjoy herself during multiple encounters, particularly one instance where she scooted forward on her own. I don't know what that means. Like, scoot forward, okay, suggesting consent without Diddy's instruction. Wait, are they saying that during the freak off, during sex, when this guy was having sex with her, she scooted forward? Maybe she scooted forward to get more comfortable. She scooted forward to, she knew Diddy wanted something to be done. Like, how is that? How does that mean that she actually enjoyed it? And during these freak offs, we already know it's painful and she's filled with drugs. Like, how does that equal she's enjoying herself? I really just feel like these guys were just there to get paid. They didn't know the difference of if a woman's enjoying it or not. And I'm pretty sure, because we've heard, if Diddy didn't like something she would do, he would either scold her, berate her, scare her, or take her out, or right there in front of the escort,
Dang.
beat on her, hit her, slap her, or whatever. And Cassie would start crying. And then she would have to probably come back and make sure she's showing she really loves it, because Diddy keeps these tapes. I don't know if he ever goes back and watches them, but he for sure was there during the majority, unless he was having his assistant FaceTime him the freak off. Hayes went on to clarify that he couldn't confirm if Cassie climaxed or really had enjoyment. That's just what his perception was. And so let's be honest, as women, men for the most part, if this is casual encounter and if this is transactional, how would he be able to gauge if she was enjoying herself? I think a lot of women will tell you they fake it in order to either please the man, to just get it over with, whatever it is. A lot of women fake being enjoyed. And
Ah. So when y'all be saying, oh, Jesus, oh my God, oh, Jesus, oh my God, y'all be faking it. Thank you, Melanie, for the information. I just play it. I just play it, guys.
I do not think it, at least for the majority of these freak offs, that Cassie was just loving having sex for hours and days at a time. What woman on earth could even do that? I am just surprised she didn't have to have a full hysterectomy. Like, this is pretty bad.
Me
I'm
too. I
hoping
was thinking
to
the same
get some
thing.
medical clarification on what will happen engaging in this type of activity this long. There's one content creator who is a physician and actually is an OBGYN who has spoke out about it, but maybe I can bring them on and interview them. Some of these details that a lot of us want to know. I'm not trying to be intrusive, but hey, this is a federal public trial, and a lot of us have questions that we don't know where to get the answers to. The next witness to take the stand was Homeland Security Special Agent Gerard Gannon, who detailed the March 2024 raid on Diddy's Miami mansion on Star Island.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
using photographs and other evidence that was shown in court, we don't have those. Gannon walked the jury through the house's second floor and a private closet where investigators, guys, this is what they recovered from this closet: two AR-15 rifles, with loaded magazines. One contained 19 rounds, the other only 10 rounds. Now, one of the AR 15s had a red dot optic. So that enhances its aiming ability. Essentially, you guys have seen that, right?
Yeah,
So while
of
the other
course.
just had a basic iron sight. Both guns were defaced, meaning the serial numbers were removed, making them nearly impossible to trace, which those are charges on their own. There were also sex toys, 7-inch platform heels, lingerie, and a crate full of Astroglide and baby oil. There were boxes of condoms and other things that they found. Now, get this. Gannon physically showed some of the items to the jury while also displaying high res images on the screen. They actually had it in court. This testimony, well,
Wow.
it just painted this graphic, detailed image of what was found in his private quarters, linking him to the sexual and potentially violent themes to be alleged in the trafficking and abuse. And not only that, like we heard about all of the baby oil that was found, we had heard about some guns, but now with them bringing on different agents, they brought in an agent the other day. I think it was last Friday. It was a very quick testimony. We're detailing how Diddy was caught with at a hotel in New York when they went in to arrest him when he was going to turn himself in. Instead, they arrested him, that he had all of his freak off paraphernalia. We're talking about bags and bags of baby oil, Astroglide, and even that pink cocaine and that
Dang.
we've heard of, and it was in a bottle labeled to Frank Black, which is Diddy's pseudonym he uses for freak off hotels when they're booked. So today wrapped up with Gannon's testimony, and it is expected to continue tomorrow. He's going to be on the stand in the
Dang.
morning, but also the prosecutors announced that Kid Cudi is expected to testify either tomorrow or Thursday in court. I can't wait to hear what he has to
Wow.
say. We've heard it from Cassie's side first in her lawsuit where Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car. Then when Cassie's on the stand, she recounted that. But then also Diddy wanted them to have this dinner, sit down dinner together, this meeting to discuss the relationship because she had left Diddy. She had fled to Kid Cudi to get away from Diddy. And Diddy still wanted to pull her back in and he still controlled her. So if you look at Cassie's life, she has no recourse. She usually if she leaves Diddy, she goes to another man. It's like she has to flee this man to go to another
Yeah.
one. So that was the case with Kid Cudi in order to look for protection. Now the defense is continuing to poke holes in her story or try to, and it's going to be pretty hard, but I'm going to save that for another video because I know some people think they're not proving their case. They're not proving their case. They are, folks. Like, I'm just here to tell you. So the prosecution is proving their case. But they're trying to say that Cassie was, they say that she would just go and cheat on Diddy and go with other men. They're framing it as that. But also that if this was so bad, why is she fleeing to another man, another relationship versus fleeing to the police, to the authorities, someone who can
Yeah.
help her? Now, Cassie has explained before that she was scared speaking to the police because Diddy had connections with the police, with the authorities, and that she was afraid to expose all of that because if she did that, well, then he could just automatically release the freak off tapes and kind of claim that, his house was robbed. He didn't do anything. Somebody else put it out on the internet. Like there's a lot of ways that he can claim certain things. And if she didn't have certain evidence that she was being abused or beaten, and that none of Diddy's people were going to help her out or testify to it. And then also he's threatening to kill her family. Her mother testified earlier today that Diddy was going to blackmail Cassie with a freak off tape and put it out there and said, you better told her mother, you pay me $20,000 in order for me not to release this tape. And her mother and her husband, I don't think it's Cassie's dad that she's married to, but Cassie's mother
Wow.
and her stepfather had to mortgage their home in order
What?
to give Diddy $20,000. To me, that's the most harrowing testimony I heard. And it was harrowing because they didn't even cross-examine her. But
Damn.
anyway, I went on a little bit of a rabbit trail. But I want to hear what Kid Cudi has to say, the details, what he witnessed, what he saw, what all of those details to come together. Because, guys, I actually think there's going to be other celebrities that are brought up. We've heard several celebrities named, Usher in particular, witnessed the abuse. Okay, witnessed the abuse and did absolutely nothing about it. So it looks like Usher is complicit in seeing this abuse. Now, I don't know if they would try to charge him or it's like other people who they're bringing in as witnesses, where in exchange for them not being charged for not reporting, I don't even know if it's a crime to not report the abuse. So he may not even be on the hook like that.
Nah, I don't
But
think
if
that's
the
no
government
crime.
calls him as a witness, he's going to have to come in. He's going to
Oh
have to
yeah, he got to
testify.
come
This
in.
isn't like a civil trial where you could subpoena people. It's a little bit more loose. When it comes to a criminal trial and it's the government, the federal government is coming after somebody, they're not going to play around and let you just play fast and loose. But then that also plays into something else. A lot of people believe that Diddy for a long time was a Fed. And there's a lot of credence to it. I haven't outlined it in any videos because it was just really suspicious that Diddy only got was only charged. He was only raided and then charged after Cassie filed that lawsuit. It went public. But there have been reports decades. Diddy has stood trial on gun charges, on all types of things. I mean, when I tell you, if you don't know Diddy's history, these things have been out here. Witnesses have talked about the things that have happened. The 1999 club shooting, which I talked about yesterday, where J Lo was part of that, the actual victim, Natanya, who was shot, okay, and the state tried to say it was Shine who ended up taking the fall for this stuff. They said it was Shine, but she has been saying from day one, as
Yeah.
a victim, as a witness, it was not Shine, it was Diddy who shot me in the face. So that begs the question, if you have the actual victim who says she saw this, why in the world would Diddy not be charged with shooting her, but instead Shine?
Yes.
Something is not adding up. It seems like there's a lot of protection for Diddy. Maybe he pissed off the wrong people. Finally, maybe when Cassie's lawsuit dropped, they can no longer hide these things in the shadows. But I don't know. Something about it just feels really sleazy. And I don't understand why he was allowed to operate all this time and nothing was done.
A
The
long
same thing can
time.
be said about Epstein. The government knew about Epstein. He had been arrested and served time, okay, for these crimes. But they have friends and connections in powerful places. Okay. And we're not just talking about the government. We're not just talking about politicians or other celebrities, even royalty. Yeah. Prince Andrew, with Epstein. And then I did a video the other day, and Prince Harry's name has been dragged into this, where Prince Harry's connection to Diddy. So, what is really going on? We
Dang.
got to dig deeper. Maybe we'll get more answers in this case. But outside of this case,
Wow. He knows some powerful people now. I will say that. Because he been getting away with this type of for a long time. Dang. That's crazy, bro. I'm just finding this out. Now, some of the stuff I've heard already. But the part about when he told Cassie mom that she gonna have to give him $20 unless he's gonna release the footage or the tape or a tape or whatever. And she had to go mortgage her home off to pay him off the 20,000, and he don't even need the 20,000. Yeah, he deserve everything he get.